I break bread, break bread,
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, December 26th. It is the day after Christmas, and I'm recording live from the Civic Center, Alamo Square neighborhood of San Francisco. And I have my guest is my brother, Matt. Say hi, Matt.
How's it going?
Hey.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody, from Matt. And just one announcement to make, that this will be my last podcast for some time. It might return, it might not. But there's bigger and better things in the works. But to all the people that have religiously listened over the last almost year, I thank you for your patronage and your listenership and all the good things in between. So, Matt, we're here today in your kitchen.
Yes.
What are we going to talk about?
I mean, shit. We can
talk about shit.
We can talk about all kinds of things.
Talk about how you wanted to correct a couple stories that were told on the podcast previously.
So, I can't say I've listened to all of your, what is it, 48?
This will be number 44, I think.
44. So I haven't listened to all 43, but I have listened to a few, and I will say your memory is
I embellish.
Eroded. Not that you embellish. These things definitely happen, but it's just funny to hear them from your perspective or someone else's perspective. I was there.
Correct the Tim Wiggins one right now, because I guess that was the one you had the biggest problem with.
I didn't have a problem with that at all. It's like
Matt had a bigger role in that whole riot that went on.
It was just funny to hear the both of you and your memories, and obviously you guys have gone through a lot, and that was A, a long time ago, and B, you were both highly under the influence that night, which I was not. I believe I was the...
You were the designated driver.
Yeah,
you weren't even doing anything yet.
I was stone sober. So I remember that with crystal clear memory, and it definitely all happened. It was an extremely tense night, but Timmy said something about like, oh, I felt like I was floating or something like that. And that's because I literally picked him up and ran him out of there when things started to get crazy. And then, unfortunately, that wasn't the end of the violence. That we kind of got caught up in the parking lot a little bit when we were trying to get out of there. But, yeah, either way, I love Timmy.
Yeah, we all love Tim.
What's up, Tim?
We helped him out that night. So for anybody that doesn't know, I have a younger brother, Matt. He's 2 years younger than me. A lot of people that don't know would think he's 2 years older than me, but I'm the older brother. If there's any hardcore listeners here, you definitely know Matt. But anybody that's a local food scene listener, you might not know that I have a younger brother who is actually, I don't even know what the term is nowadays or what you like to be called. He is a bartender, but he's like on another level of bartending.
Yeah, I'm a bartender.
No. Why is everybody so modest?
Because, well, it's just, I've actually heard a lot of people talk about things like this on the podcast, so it is interesting. And
like Tyler Anderson not wanting to be a world-renowned chef.
Yeah, it's like, there's people that do and there's people that don't. And whatever it is that I do or don't do, I just consider myself a bartender. I manage a bar. I'm part owner of the bar that I manage at. I'm very proud of that. But it doesn't go beyond that. Self-promotion is not one of my strong suits.
No.
We'll leave it at that.
He's always been very modest.
If anything, just come and sit at my bar, and I'd love to make you a drink.
So Matt works at Blackbird on Market Street?
Yes.
Market Street in the, what neighborhood is that?
Castro.
In the Castro. If you're ever out in San Francisco, please stop by and say hi. He always has the door open. Every time I have a friend in town, I send them there. But a lot of people, you might not have time because you're just passing through. But if you're spending more than a couple days in San Francisco and you like to drink, you need to go here because even as a non-drinker, I recognize this as like a nicer, high-end, mixology.
Don't say that.
You see, I knew it. Yeah. See, I think I had this conversation before. What's up? like mixology is like the new handicapped. Like you can't say it anymore.
Well, it's not even that. It's like it's more about like, are you someone that's going to take yourself that seriously? Where you're going to give yourself a label to separate yourself from the profession that you find yourself in? And then we're just not one of those bars either. Like, you know, if you did want to put labels on things, I would say Blackbird is first and foremost a neighborhood bar. It's about, you know, giving people what they want at a good price and keeping people comfortable and satisfied. That's it. We're not trying to do things that are like, you know, lofty or, you know, kind of hoity-toity. Some people might think it's fancy. Sure, if you walk out of Lucky 13 and you walk 500 feet and come into our bar, it might seem a little bit fancier, but I don't think it's a fancy bar by any means. It's just a well-kept neighborhood bar.
What's the difference between a bartender and a mixologist?
Well, it's a long-going point of contention in the industry. Basically, a mixologist is somebody that may or may not. I'm not going to go on record saying this because I don't want anybody coming after me being like, "What's wrong with mixology?" And that's fine.
No.
It's just a matter of what you want to call yourself. And I've even heard some people go as far as being like, "Sure, I'll be a mixologist. I'll make more money than a bartender." So there's some people that think that the label will come with more opportunity, but also might come with more expectations too.
You do the same job though.
Essentially. But you know, it's a joke in the industry as well that, you know, you can call yourself a mixologist, but that drink's probably going to take 10 minutes to make.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to do. That's
No.
not what I want to be a part of. So, and there's just, you know, it's like I think one term is a little more pretentious than the other. But you know, this is what we do, and you know, you can call yourself whatever you want.
So, how long have you been living in San Francisco? 8 years now?
No, it'll be, I think I moved here in 2009, so going into my 9th year here.
Okay. So, Matt has been here for 9 years, and he has carved his way through the city. What were you doing before you were working at Blackbird?
Delivering marijuana
Oh, that's right.
via bicycle.
I forgot all about that. That was a good start. That was an awesome start.
Yeah.
So, back in, I don't know, what was it, 2000 maybe, 2001, Matt moved to Cincinnati with a bunch of our friends, and then they all seem to have transplanted themselves in San Francisco about 7 years after that. You haven't been living in Connecticut since...
I think
When did you leave?
I think I was either 20 or 21 when I left. I can't remember.
What year would that have been?
2000 or 2001.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah.
And now Matt lives here, and every time I come out here, I get very jealous. Not jealous, it's just like, you know, it's a city that has so much more to offer compared to where I live.
Yeah, and you know that's part of the big reason that brought me out here too. Obviously,
Yeah.
my move to Cincinnati was for one reason. It wasn't supposed to be an 8-year endeavor by any means. I thought I was going to be there for a year, maybe 2. But yeah, I just been kind of keeping it moving, looking for a place that would allow me to find something new to get into. Like when I moved here, I didn't anticipate starting a bartend at all. It's just something that happened.
All right. What are you sipping on over there?
Sipping on a little beer.
What kind?
Just cracked it. It's a Modern Times.
Ooh, modern.
Modern Times, Haunted Stars, Imperial Rye Porter. Sorry, I just had to crack the fridge and look at it.
Oh, I got Matt for Christmas a Bell Mead single barrel bourbon, cask strength. So when I went and bought this fucking bottle of liquor from that dude at Healthy Liquors,
Healthy Spirits.
Healthy Spirits, he pretty much schooled me on. I pretty much learned more than I knew about liquor in the fucking 10 minutes that I was talking to him than I have in my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's only because I don't drink. And I have a lot of friends that do drink, and they love bourbons, and they love ryes, and they love whiskeys, and they love cognac. But I don't know a goddamn thing about any of them. I know how to spell them, but I don't know like anything about liquor. And give us a breakdown. Give me a break. Take like a big misconception between all that and let people know. Like,
Yeah, well, you actually did one thing just in your last sentence you included cognac in that. Cognac is not a whiskey.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think that anything brown, well, with the exception of rum or maybe some other things that people do know isn't a whiskey. A lot of brown spirits or it's all whiskey, but cognac's a brandy. It's made from a grape.
Oh, cognac is brandy.
Brandy.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, cognac's cognac, but if you break it down to its more simple, coming out of, cognac is a very protected thing because it can only be cognac if it's made in that region, and it has to stick to like very strict guidelines.
And that's one region in France.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's a wine growing region in France. I don't want to start spouting off too much stuff because if I get something wrong, I don't want to be called out. But yeah, it has to be from that part of the world to be considered cognac, just like tequila has to be from Mexico to be considered tequila. And these are obviously all have very hyper specific things that go along with them. It's obviously more than just those things. But those are all DOCs that are created to protect these products so that some like Joe Schmo can't start making cognac and selling it out of Canada or another part of France.
Okay.
So once they get these things, they want to protect them, and the French are actually really good at doing just that.
So
going back to whiskey,
what's whiskey made of? Corn?
Whiskey can be made from multiple different grains. Bourbon specifically has to be majority corn. And just a few years ago, the category of bourbon changed quite a bit. So it used to be only a bourbon can come from that part of Kentucky. Now bourbons can come from anywhere in the United States, but they still have to adhere to the rules that were already put forth for bourbon as a category.
Okay.
So 51% corn is the typical, what would make a bourbon. The rest of the grains can have a little bit of wiggle room, but it has to be at least 51% corn. Like I said, I don't want to go rattling off numbers and things like that because I don't want to make a mistake.
You don't got to get too involved.
But basically, bourbon has to be 51% corn. There's some specifics about the barrel that goes into how long it needs to age for. Rye, obviously, it has to be majority rye. American single malt's a new category that's kind of coming out right now where those rules are a little bit loose because I think they're trying to figure it out as a category as well.
All right. So here's another question. Malts. Single malt? Double malt? Is there such a thing? What's single malt? What's that mean?
So single malt actually, that's interesting because it's kind of misleading. If you're talking about single malt Scotch, obviously Scotch has to be made from malted barley.
Okay. Because I was going to say, what is Scotch?
That's a whole nother conversation. But the single in that term, single malt, is more. It's more referring to. It's a single distillate. So it's one product made at one distillery. It's really not. It only comes from one malt.
Okay.
So and an American single malt is a little bit different, but it's kind of like if you can think of an American whiskey that's made in the same style as Scotch.
Okay.
Which is a single malt style.
Okay.
Yeah, which is at the end of the day, it's going to be made with 51% malted barley.
Okay.
And that's what's going to make it, at least for American single malt purposes.
Do a big burp.
I know. I got really burpy, and I'm getting shy about it. I'm just going to start burping right into the mic.
I think Meg is like allergic to some certain kind of beer because one night she drank this beer and she had to like get on all fours in the bed and make her body a certain like way, and she just she kept burping. I was like, please don't do that again. I think she's having like an allergic reaction to it. Oh man. All right, so we covered that.
Thanks for the bourbon, by the way.
Yeah, dude.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And I don't buy myself that kind of stuff anymore. It's like when you work at a bar and you're around this stuff 24/7, it's still special to me, but I'm like, I can just drink this at the bar. You know what I mean? I get it for much cheaper and things like that. So that's actually, they did a really good job because they got you something that I couldn't get.
Yeah.
So those guys are really good at what they do over there at Healthy Spirits. If you're ever in San Francisco, please go see them.
So cask strength, single barrel. Now, I always hear single barrel. That means it stayed in the barrel the whole life until it was bottled.
Well, yes and no. So that's a term that that's a term that I think can also be a little bit confusing. But essentially what they did was they probably either got samples sent to them or went to that distillery, tasted multiple barrels, and were like, we want this one. So they got that single barrel. So
Okay.
it hasn't been blended with anything else except for one barrel.
Okay.
And that's something that a lot of whiskey companies have been doing just to let places like, like liquor stores and bars. We've done that at Blackbird where we've gotten our own barrels before. It allows you to offer something like a little bit more special. Like you can't,
Nobody else
you
has
can
it.
get this similar thing, but this is like, we're the only people that have this. Because there's huge variances in flavors from barrel to barrel to barrel. So like if it's on the 5th floor of a rick house compared to the 1st floor of a rick house, those are going to be wildly different in flavor. So these companies take all this whiskey and they blend them together, and that's how they get their consistent flavor profile. But if you take a barrel at a time, they can be like night and day.
And that's because of the altitude?
What
What would be different on the 5th floor than the 1st floor?
Well, if you think about it, it's like, that's actually a Tennessee whiskey, but it's the same part of the country. It's like Tennessee, Kentucky. They've got cold winters and hot summers. If you're on, like, let's say that barrel is sitting on the 5th floor of a rick house on the north facing side, it's not going to get any sun. It's going to be the coldest, like a very cold part of the rick house where it's aging. And, the thing's in there for 7 to 10 years maybe. That's a big difference than the side where the sun is beating through the windows. It's going to be much warmer. So like the warmer temperatures are going to make that angel share speed up, where it's going to be evaporating faster, and that's going to make for a different whiskey at the end of the day. I didn't think I was going to be talking all this spirits bullshit on here.
Well, you know more than most people do, so if there was
mean-
anything that you could come on here and make
Yeah.
it your thing, it's that.
I guess so.
Oh, man. So cognac comes from a grape.
Yes.
So does wine.
Yes.
What is the difference in aging? How does a grape turn into cognac, and why is wine and cognac such a different thing?
Well, because wine is a product of fermentation, where cognac is a product of fermentation and then distillation.
Okay.
So distillation is like a concentration of flavors. So like you can take essentially like a wine. You can take basically a wine and then run that through a still, and that would be like your next step towards a cognac. It's obviously a lot more complicated than that. But with wine, you're just pressing it, introducing yeast to get the fermentation started, and then you're taking it once it gets to a certain alcohol content, taking it, putting it in a barrel, letting it do its thing, and then you're never going to get higher alcohol percentage than that unless you use a still, because a still is essentially like, okay, this wine's 15% alcohol, I want to make it more alcoholic. You basically condensing it down to like a higher alcohol product. So you're putting it through the still, you're heating it up. Basically, what you're collecting is just the evaporation from that product. So that's why, it takes. Again, I don't want to throw numbers out there, but let's say it takes a gallon of wine to make a cup of a distillate. That might be completely wrong, but think about it like that.
Yeah,
It's going to get less and less and less.
Okay.
And then every time you distill it, because there's things that are distilled multiple times. Very few products are only distilled once, but it's out there. You know what I mean? That just takes like a really good distiller, where other things are distilled multiple times, like something like a vodka distilled multiple times.
Okay.
Because they want it to be as neutral and stripped away of like whatever that base thing was made from. Like
Okay.
whether it's like a corn-based vodka or potato-based vodka.
That's right,
Essentially,
because you could have different bases for those.
they don't like a category like vodka. You don't want to taste what it came from. So you're going to keep distilling it and get that alcohol percentage way up there.
Okay. All right. You ever see like the Tim and Eric episode where they're talking about space, and Eric just keeps going, talking about getting his mind blown? Like I think a lot of people are going through that right now. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, obviously I want to know as many things about these spirits and products and beer and wine and stuff like that I want to, but it's something I take for granted. Because like sometimes I feel like I don't know shit, but then like, just sitting here chatting with someone that's curious like yourself, I'm like,
yeah.
Actually,
You do.
kind of know a couple things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I can at least give people like a good base explanation.
I feel that way when I'm talking to people about food, but I got to remember I'm talking to like regular food eater, and I know more. And it's just like you're talking to somebody that doesn't know shit about alcohol.
Yeah.
And you do know more. Oh, well, hey.
I guess this kind of goes hand in hand with some of the other guests you've had on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has like I bring people on because they have their one thing that not everybody else can do. You know what I mean? But let's shift gears, bro.
Okay.
What are we gonna
Talk some shit.
Matt, you want to talk some shit? Dial 1-800.
Pick up the phone, fool.
That's one of my. They actually had that guy that created that commercial and one other one on Tom Segura's podcast. They brought him on and made him talk about his inspiration to do it.
Genius.
He's just some regular dude. He's like freaking hilarious, and I think he actually lives. He lives here in Los Angeles, and they talked to him for 2 hours. You didn't think that dude would He had short films and shit. And it was pretty funny, but
definitely one of my favorite pieces of internet trash. Come across my phone.
Totally. So Matt has a little bit over 2-year-old daughter who is my niece, and I'm very biased when I say this, but it's also based in fact. That she is one of the cutest children that I've ever come across. And I say that to people, and they're like, oh, you're just being like that because you're the uncle. Then I show them the picture, and they're like, holy shit, that really is one of the cutest children I've ever seen in my life.
I think it was the episode, and I've missed some episodes too, so I'm sure you've brought her up before, but the episode you did with Timmy, where you kind of broke down, how you and Meg...
The lineage?
You and Meg are like, oh, I want to have a kid, but only if it's as cute as Venus Rose.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to have some fucking shitty white child. And it's not a diss to Meg or myself. It's just she's got her genes, I got my genes, and you never know what's going to come out. But you guys just fucking... You just it was like a... What do you call it? What's this? In the casino.
Jackpot.
Yeah. Or no, well...
Ben's making a hand-jerking motion.
It's a slot machine. Yeah, he just pulled the slot machine thing and it just
hit
came
the jackpot.
out. Ching, ching, ching. Yeah, you totally hit the jackpot as far as genes and your child's good looks go.
My beautiful exotic girlfriend definitely helped with that, but, they say
Shirley,
mixed babies.
So Shirley is 100% Filipino?
No, half Filipino.
So Shirley is half Filipino. Me and Matt are kind of we have a lot of different things in us, but we're predominantly Italian, but there's a lot of other stuff. There's some Swedish in there.
We're Italian and Swedish for the most part.
Italian and Swedish for the most part.
We just never identified with our Swedish side because it's from our grandfather we never met.
Yeah, we never met our grandfather, so we didn't really know what he looked like.
That's definitely where we got our height, though.
Yeah, whoever this guy was, he's definitely over 6 feet tall. But I come out here to primarily, I love seeing my whole family, but I come out here to forge a relationship with my niece, and I look forward to it every single time I come out here. And it's to the point now where I met her when she was born. I was here last year around this time
for her first birthday,
and now I'm out here again, and only because, and I will attest this to technology. Only because of FaceTime do I think she remembers who I am, and she says Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
She says Aunt Meg, or sometimes she says Uncle Meg, but she knows us through seeing us constantly.
Yeah.
If she only saw me last year and then saw me this year, she wouldn't know who I was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
thank that.
You have spent a lot of time with her, and it's interesting because she sees a lot of people a lot more often than you, but she brings you up a lot because there's.
And isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Does she must know that there's I'm a relative?
Yeah. Yeah. You've spent, and then that's another thing is she knows a lot of people. She meets a lot of people in the city, but we Shirley and I don't let a lot of people spend time with her alone, and that's partially just because we're really busy and we just don't, but we cherish the time that we do have with Venus. So it's I can still count on a couple of hands how many times we've had a babysitter in 2 years.
Yeah.
And that just says a lot. So the fact that she spent days on end with you, she's going to remember all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their brains are magnets. They don't forget anything.
And that's the funny thing is you sometimes you figure, oh, this child's going to forget or whatever, but no, it doesn't happen like that. I came out last year and that was pretty much the whole week where you guys were do your own thing. Yeah. And I put her in the stroller. We walked around the city. We went and ate at fucking high-end restaurants all alone and made a mess. And it was just an awesome way to build a relationship. And she'll always remember that. And she'll always see pictures. We don't got that.
No.
Mom has a fucking shoebox full of pictures, but they're just Some of them are good, but sometimes I wish, like, it seems to stop at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few pictures, like, high school age or, like, middle school age. There's a couple, but, like, there's a lot. Like, there's a long photo stream from when we were born, probably up until, like, 10, and then it stops. And I don't know why, like... I mean, what was going on, like, in the world at that time.
Yeah, and that's one of the most humbling things about being a parent so far is, like, you want to do your best and do all these things that weren't done for you or didn't take part in your childhood. But the further on you get, the more complicated it gets, and the more tired you get, and, like, you got to work more, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. So it's like, as much as I want to hold on to the way I felt on day one when we had her. It's a full-time job,
Oh, yeah.
But, like, not a day goes by that I don't take a photo of her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's like, for anyone out there that's a parent, you obviously know this, but for people that don't have kids, it is the most cliche thing I've ever experienced in my life. Because, like, you hear these people say things about their kids, and you're like, yeah. But then you have one, and you're just like, fuck, I'm that person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like that fucking Hallmark card comment about to happen about, like, cherish the moments and stuff like that. And it's so true, because it's like, you really don't. And I'm very thankful that I can have that foresight and not just take it for granted. I definitely don't want to ever take a single minute for granted. Mm-hmm. And no one should, you know what I mean? That's that's another cliche thing, like, don't take things for granted. But it's like, every single day I spend with my daughter, it makes me a better person on a regular basis, because it's like, not only do I have to think for myself now, but I have to think about someone else.
Mm-hmm. I forget. It was the other night. You guys were gone, and I don't know if Meg was gone or if she was just in the other room or something. But, like, I turned off the light, and there was, like, the Christmas tree was on, and she was like, put on fucking Elmo, or we were watching The Jungle Book. And she just crawled up onto the couch and, like made a spot right next to me and just kind of, like, sat upright and was, like, looking at the TV. And I got emotional as fuck. I was like, this is exactly what they're talking about. These are the moments.
Yeah.
You'll never get it back. You know what I mean?
And, like, isn't a day go by. There isn't a day that goes by where she's not a total maniac. And I'm like, how do I deal with this? Excuse me, there's my burp. But then, then you'll have a moment like that, and it'll just make you melt.
Makes it all worth it.
Like, it's like, I never thought I would be, and it's, we all say this kind of shit. It's like, melt my icy fucking heart. You know what I mean? It's I'm 35 years old when I had this kid. I was pretty like calloused and like ready to just be like,
fuck it.
I never thought I would have kids, but now it's like, I could never imagine not feeling those things that I've felt,
Totally. That's fucking great, man. She's just like, I get psyched, and I know, like there's it's almost like a stigma. It's like the big guy, the tough guy, and, like, the little girl. Mm-hmm. And I've always I say it to Meg all the time. It's like, we go back and forth about having kids, but I'll tell you right now, dude, if I knew that I could change, or if I knew that I could pick the sex, I would definitely want a little girl.
Yeah.
Just because, I don't know. We were both little boys, and I feel like we fucking.
If I rolled the dice with a version of me or you coming as one of my sons,
that would fuck everything up.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I was expecting. But there's all these people that say, like, oh, that's the bartender's curse to have a little girl. Like, it's just, I don't know. There's a wives' tale for everything. But yeah,
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
one.
it's a stupid. It's a I don't know.
The
where it comes from.
bartender's curse. Oh man, that's great.
But I couldn't imagine having a little boy, and that's initially before she came, that's like what I was rooting for, and by accident when we were getting an ultrasound, the woman told us what the sex was, and we were kind of like bummed, but at the same time, it gave me time to like wrap my head around it.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm like, I think because Shirley and I both had the same feelings. Like, Shirley's like, if we have a little girl, we're gonna butt heads. Like, and I'm like, if I have a little boy, we're probably gonna butt heads too. And it's just like, that's obviously there's a 50-50 chance of most heterosexual relationships to have that same dynamic. Mm-hmm. But we got a little girl. Hopefully we can figure it out.
Well, I think you have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're 2 years in.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any other small children in our family. But the thing is, I think about this. This is the thing I think about. So, wow, remember our relationships with our uncles?
No.
No, it's not like
We also,
this.
and we have a pretty different situation. We came from a family, not a very big, not a very affectionate family.
Yeah.
But both of our uncles weren't by blood either.
No,
So
they
it's
were
like,
married in.
It was like our dad's sister's husband and our mom's sister's husband. So
Who
like,
both since then have been divorced.
yeah.
And are out of the family.
Yeah. And, Uncle Butch was always a cool ass guy.
I just friended him on Facebook last week. And I don't
He's been
know
on Facebook longer than any of us.
I don't know like if he got the request or not. But yeah, and we have another Uncle Danny, who just no one even keeps in touch with him.
He's doing his thing, but whatever. We just don't have a relationship with him.
Yeah, we don't
like
know
he was like the cool uncle that like was, he's a pretty accomplished person, but it was not a role model for us by any means. He like was a pilot. He was in the Air Force. He was a anesthesiologist. He was one of those people. He was like a junkie for credentials. He did all this shit, and like obviously he's a very smart person, but we didn't get to know him.
Equate to his.
We saw him every Christmas Eve, and that was about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was really all he was.
He had a Corvette.
Yeah, and he crashed a Corvette. But yeah, like I try to think about that and compare it to my relationship with her, and it's just like it's a totally different relationship. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's like that. Imagine if Uncle Butch was like that with me. Like, oh, my favorite person in the world. I'm gonna come and visit all the time. Yeah. Nah, he never even gave a fuck.
Yeah. But he also had two kids.
He had his own
he had
kids,
two kids for a very long time before you came along. So it's like, when generationally, I don't know.
Generationally, yep.
There's a big difference, obviously, too. So like when we were younger, when we were growing up, it was almost like expected. And I'm sure you probably didn't expect me to have a kid. So like you kind of have like a different like this. Like I never expected you to have a kid. So like when you have a kid, I'll probably be very much involved in that child's life, hopefully.
And I think it's just a lot to do with like we haven't had any young like super like small people around us. There's no small children in our family.
Yeah,
like she's the first. You're the second youngest person after her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy if you think about it like that.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And when you see these families, it's like Meg's family's fucking huge. Everybody's got babies. Yeah. Everybody's got like a million cousins. Like our wedding is going to be her family and my friends. That's like as many friends as I got. She's got family members. She's got a couple friends that are going to come, but I have more friends, and then I'll have like a few family members there. You know what I mean? That's the way it's going to pan out. But yeah, that's another fucking task that I got coming towards me. But
congratulations.
Thank you. Everybody's been saying that. It's very weird to hear.
I had a baby. You're getting married. What the fuck is going on?
Yo. Oh man!
For anyone out there listening that don't know Ben and I from our youth, we've led a fairly rivalry heavy lifetime.
Reckless brotherhood.
Best friends one day, mortal enemies the next.
I think it's weird because when you look at sets of brothers, they're either like at each other's throats and they fucking hate each other and they don't speak to each other, or they're like, best friends. But we know a lot of people that are like brothers, like we're 2 years apart. We know a couple that like keep in touch.
Yeah, I mean we're close enough in age that we can share friends and relate and have like similar interests. It would have been weird
like if I was like 10 and you were 2.
Yeah,
like I wouldn't have known what to do.
We have nothing in common at that point.
And at this point, like you would be fucking 30, almost 38, and I'd be like almost 50. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, what kind of like knowledge could I have passed on? We're basically the same age.
Yes.
Basically the same age.
Yeah, at one point you were only a grade ahead of me.
Yeah.
And the brief time we spent in high school together.
When I stayed back in high school. So, me and Matt went to the same high school, and Matt got to graduate from the high school he started at, but I was kicked out, and I was let back in, and I was kicked out again. So, I like flip-flopped all around the Bristol High School.
But you graduated.
I graduated. Who's the principal of Bristol Eastern High School right now?
Who?
Mike Higgins.
Are you kidding me?
Nope.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's
That's
great.
awesome.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He got his doctorate. And,
He was one of those dudes. It was like he was a fucking straight laced dude, but he was cool though. Like he wasn't like a square. You know, what I
He was
mean?
always
like,
that cool. Like I could totally see him doing that.
Yeah.
Because he was also like he was never a prick.
Yeah.
Like I remember that dude. Like he would go to like he was that dude you'd see at a keg party, just like happy to be there,
enjoying himself.
One beer. All right, guys, gotta go. Instead of like turning the night into some devious shit. You know what I mean?
He definitely could have been a politician too.
Yeah, I saw him at Tommy Gale's restaurant, Present Company.
Okay.
For their opening like party they had one night.
Yeah.
And he was just like over the moon, dude. He was like, whoa, it's gonna see Jeffrey Burr said hi, blah blah blah. Yeah, he's a good one. He's a real good one.
I saw Tommy the last time I was in town when I came to town for your graduation, and I like snuck out that one night. There was like that weird
Bartender thing.
there was like a food bartender competition. Was that the same restaurant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you went to
Oh no, that was like a Greek, like Middle Eastern restaurant that just opened.
Zohara.
But Tommy had like one of his chefs from his restaurant was competing in the.
Oh yeah.
It was at Zohara.
Yep, that's a new place to open. This dude Xavier is the chef there. They got some good stuff, but I went and ate there, and I just couldn't get over them putting chocolate on the bottom of the baklava.
It's fucking disgrace. Sorry.
The food is banging, but like when I heard that, and I guarantee you, that's not the first time I brought this up on the podcast. I bet you if I go look at the menu, there ain't fucking chocolate on that baklava anymore. There's some
trying
things,
to appeal to the whites.
yeah. What the fuck? You don't need to appeal to white people. Keep it real.
Yeah,
Keep it fucking real. There's a lot of shit that goes on like that in like the food world, and I know that there's shit that goes on like in your industry too, where people try to like pull some sacrilege bullshit on some liquor, and you're just like, no, that's like mixing wine. Oh, dude, my Sherry's Megan's friend Sherry is like, her parents are like straight from Portugal, and they call, you know what a Portuguese soda is? Wine with like Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah.
And they drink that, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
There's another term for it in Spain, but that shit is wildly popular.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's a restaurant that just opened right down the street from here. You know, and then this is the extremely popular trend that doesn't seem to be dying is like Spanish tapas.
Oh yeah.
And they have, I can't remember what they call it, but it's, you know, it's red wine and Coke, and they have it on draft. So it's like they've already mixed it together and carbonated it and put it on draft. So it's like,
that might be good. Like doing it in your fucking, it might be or it might not.
It might be or it might be good too, but it's like, you know what, people from Spain, that's what they drink. So like, is that what people in San Francisco are going to want to drink? Maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, but it's, you know, I'm not going to be drinking red wine and Coke anytime soon. But if I was in Spain, I would do it up because it's
just
like, I want to do, you know,
like,
because if I'm there, that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wish I could remember what the term is for that, but I like to call it Jesus juice. That's what Michael Jackson was giving those kids.
Jesus juice. I forgot all about that. Oh my God.
Which may or may not be a lie.
Who cares?
Might have been framed.
That's like a good term. I'm going to make a song called Jesus Juice, I think. So, like I said before, Matt has always made me jealous about living in like a bigger city with more resources and fun things to do. You know, for years I would always get bummed when people were like, "Fuck Connecticut, I'm leaving," and I'd always be like, "Good, good riddance, asshole." You know what I mean? And it's like I can appreciate like where I grew up and what's there and what I've done and how I've grown in that area. But like anybody else will tell you, like, you can always return to it. You know what I mean? Like, and I always say this too, and me and Meg were saying it the other day. It's like, sounds cocky to say, but like, you got too big for the pond.
Yeah.
And it's just like, like I come to a city like San Francisco. I already know people there, but there are so many more people.
Yeah.
Like the whole state of Connecticut is like being in San Francisco. You know what I mean? Like if I were to compare my town of Hartford or West Hartford with San Francisco, it doesn't really like equate like size wise.
No.
And I've told it to you since I fucking came out here and started visiting you years ago that I just, I really would like to like spread my wings and go somewhere. Maybe it'll be here, maybe it'll be somewhere else, but me and Meg were talking and I'm just like, we were like Googling like rates, like
Oh,
salary
it's-
rates for like what people get for what we do back home.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
And that's the interesting thing about living in San Francisco. It's, I think every year it kind of is neck and neck with like, Manhattan for most expensive city in the country to live in. And it definitely is. But the thing that I enjoy about San Francisco is, I obviously grew up, was very close to New York City, spent a lot of time in New York City, more time than a lot of people that didn't grow up close to there, but I never wanted to live there.
Yeah.
Because it's fucking exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone I know that moved there, people would come and visit me in Cincinnati or come out and see me in San Francisco, and they'd be like narcoleptic because it's like you have to, and it's not the hustle that I'm afraid of, it's just the energy, you know what I mean? Like I think I'm like a sensitive person when it just comes to like too many people in one small place, you know what I mean? And I love visiting and I love hanging out there. But like when I came to San Francisco the first time, I was like, this is a cool ass city because you have all those things that you want when you go to those places. But it's much more manageable. It's smaller. But that's basically the reason why it's so expensive here is because it's so small that it's like there's no sprawl. There's no like way out East New York or like the places where in New York they're like turning into like the next new neighborhood. Yeah. That doesn't happen here. It's like you're either living in San Francisco or you're living in the East Bay or in Daly City.
Yeah. It's like
there's only so many places. And
it's a small little thumb.
It's been a shortage.
It's an island.
Yeah, it's basically been a housing crisis here for almost the whole time I've lived here. So thankfully we're locked in. We got a good situation. But it's not cheap. But it's like, I also didn't move here to save money either. Like I moved here to be a part of like a city with culture. Yeah. But it's it's definitely a place where you gotta do a little bit of hustling to get. And then for 6 months I was sleeping on the floor.
Oh yeah,
that's just part of it too.
Oh, and I expect to do something similar for the first year that if I wanted to move out here. Me and Meg talk about it all the time, man. It's like I got some things I need to button up, and they're getting to be buttoned up. Yeah, like they're getting to be done, and I just got to figure out my next move because I'm sorry for any Connecticut listeners that are listening, but I just feel like I don't know, I need to change, and I'm really kind of like done. Like I got to go home on Thursday, and there's it snowed like 3 times since I've left. Yeah, and I just don't I don't ski.
Nobody's gonna miss that,
I don't miss that.
I don't miss it. I mean, like I said last night, I was like, I miss snow on the ground for Christmas because it's just like a childhood memory. Yeah. It's nostalgic.
You would love her to have one snowy Christmas, and that's probably good.
But it's those, it's those 2 months, 3 months after Christmas, sometimes 4 months after Christmas, where it's fucking like that brown mountain in Bradley's parking lot is like, you need to take a flamethrower to it at the end of the season because it's like, and then it seems like from afar that the winters have gotten worse since I've left. Yep. Because I've been gone for 16 years now. It's been a while because even in the Midwest, the winters were extremely mild. I think there was one snowstorm there in the 8 years that I lived there that was even anything reminiscent to what I was used to in New England. So it's just it's one of those things you don't miss it. No, nobody misses that bitter cold, parallel parking between 2 dumps of snow. No, in like a city, or you know what I mean. So it's I don't know. No offense to anyone that lives out there. I'm not trying to be that guy.
That shit shut, like, my friends that grew up in Buffalo, it's like, I don't know how the fuck they did it.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's only one place worse than that, and it's Buffalo. Yeah. Like, that shit snows as tall as your house. Yeah. People die because they can't get out of their houses. Like, that's fucking crazy. Yeah. But the
National Guard's got to come in to shovel.
You guys had your fair share of fucking crazy shit a couple weeks ago with those wildfires. Yeah. And you guys, you were wearing a mask for a couple days.
Yeah. And it was interesting because there's obviously still uncontained, as far as I know. I haven't watched the news in a couple of days with the holidays, but in the South there's uncontrolled wildfires.
I can't believe what's going on down there.
And it's the last 2 years are the worst years on record for that kind of stuff. The 2 hottest years we've ever had. So it's like we're in for like a wild ride when it comes to stuff like that. But when the fires were happening in Northern California, which aren't very far from here at all, the air quality was so bad that I was really worried for the baby. Yeah. And it was a couple of days of that, and then we went on a vacation. So it was like perfect timing for that. Because then when we came back, it was pretty much cleared up. But for a few days, we weren't letting the baby go outside. And that sucks because it's like that's like what she looks forward to. Yeah. But, I didn't want to get like a little baby mask for her. Sorry.
Like she would have kept it on anyways.
Sorry, you encouraged the burp, so I just let it out.
Well, I'm over here drinking a fucking La Croix. Fuck. Yeah, it breaks my heart to see, like, especially what's going on in Southern California, like all that land, like whatever, people's houses, if you got insurance, yeah, it sucks, but whatever. But like all that land is just gonna take so much time to come back. And the same thing with wine country. It's just like all that shit is just like it's gonna take years to like regrow. And
a century of work, leading up to that point. But the thing, and this is gonna be me taking my like very like spiritual approach to explaining it, but it's like this is shit that happened for way before we came. It's just like we're here now. We weren't living here before, so it's like there's ways to control it and there's ways to look at it, but sometimes you can't stop those things from happening. You can't stop a snowstorm. You can't stop an earthquake.
Nope.
Why the fuck would we be able to stop a fire? And like obviously we have the technology and there's people out there working that unfortunately lose their lives when it comes to stuff like that. But we can keep trying harder every year, but it's going to be the same outcome, unfortunately. So
yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Bum out time. Let's change the subject.
Let's bum them out even worse. What can we talk about? Oh man. So when you're not bartending, what are you doing to keep yourself entertained in this beautiful city?
That's a tough one. So I mean, there's pre-Venus Rose and post-Venus Rose version of myself.
Yep.
So Shirley and I, we've been dating for a few years now. We were having a good old time, and enjoying the city and the Bay Area, and now we still do. It's just a very different thing. But one of my favorite things about living where I do, the art scene, the music scene, the food scene here, it's amazing. So like if and when I do get a night off, which isn't very often, hopefully that changes soon. This past year I worked like a maniac and I just kind of got like it was like a litmus test for myself of like, okay, how much can I work before I actually lose my fucking mind? And I found that out. So 2018 is going to be a much more self-care induced year where I'm going to work less, be smarter, stuff like that. But this city has everything anyone can want. You know what I mean? I can literally walk a block away from here and have one of the best meals you can have in the city. I can get in my car and drive a half an hour and be completely secluded and be by myself. Go eat some mushrooms. Go on a vision quest.
Ooh.
Sit and dip my ass in a hot spring. Hot springs, man. That's like, people that haven't heard from me in a long time. Like Northern California is the capital for these natural hot springs, and that is probably one of my favorite things to do with my spare time. So Shirley and I built our relationship on our first date. We went to a hot spring together, and it was like a 36-hour first date, and it was amazing. And it was just kind of like something that we did on almost like a weekly to bi-weekly to monthly basis, depending on how much we were working. But there's nothing more relaxing than it. It's like you go and sit in these waters. It's like coming from the fucking bowels of the earth, and like it's like regenerative, and like it's great, and the Bay Area has got like a very special thing going on with stuff like that. That's one of my favorite things to do. I've working in bars, having that lifestyle, it did some interesting things to me because I'm definitely an introvert. I know that. And I've figured out a way to make myself not so much an introvert when I'm working, because you can't be like a weird, like non-talkative person.
Yeah.
I definitely am not the chattiest person at my bar. I hire people that can do that for me, but I'm chatty enough that I can like make it through a shift without people being like, "Fuck's that guy."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
So
it's definitely gotten me to come out of my shell, but because I spend so much time around the general public, talking and sharing myself and like spending time around people, I need to have these moments where I go and I don't talk to anybody, and I'm like, I'll be by myself for like days at a time, and that's like what I need to like balance it out. And this area, like if I lived in New York City, I would never get that. Like you got to drive like a really fucking far time
to get remote.
Whereas here, it's like you can do that in like a half an hour, 45 minutes.
You got to go like way upstate.
Yeah.
That's
on a train all day. Whereas I can do that. I can get to that place and get back and go to work the next day here and and not feel rushed.
That's what I need, dog. Well, I wish I had known about I knew about hot springs, but I wish I would have known, you would have reminded me a couple days ago. I only got one more day here, and I would have fucking loved to go do that.
It's like one of our, and speaking of fires, one of my favorite places, it's like where Shirley and I had that date, is a place called Harbin Hot Springs, and it burnt down last year. Not last year, maybe the year before, but within the last 2 years, it completely burnt down. Mm-hmm. It's in a town called Middletown, which is up in Napa County. And it was super sad because it's this beautiful little community where it's all based on these like hot springs, and like you can go there for retreats and things like that. And the whole thing burnt down, and they just got it built back up now. So I think they're going to reopen in October or November. What am I saying? It's fucking December already.
Yeah.
So they're opening soon.
Okay.
So I'm glad to have that back on like the list of things that I can do if I get some time off.
Oh, here's another thing. So me and Meg got engaged a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And we came out here, and Matt and Shirley brought us to the best meal I've ever had on the West Coast.
Yeah.
He brought us to Lazy Bear in the Mission in San Francisco for a nice little engagement gift. And that was a sick experience.
Yeah.
Had you been before that?
No. And it's, selfishly, I wanted to kind of
You
go
wanted
there.
it? That's totally fine, dude. Fuck that.
I wanted to go myself, and I was kind of blown away by that meal, because it was, not only was it everything we ate really good, but just the way they did it, like the way they set up the night, it was nothing like I'd ever experienced before.
Yeah.
And I'll be completely honest, I'm not a big fan of fine dining restaurants. I kind of fucking hate them. Like,
That was different, though.
It's different. It's some people would consider that fine dining, maybe some people wouldn't, but the price tag definitely says fine dining, and I'm totally okay with spending that much money on an experience if it's like that. I've eaten at some other restaurants in the Bay Area with a similar price tag where I left and I either went and got food somewhere else,
Yep.
or I was like just bummed, because
Yeah.
it's like, I don't need someone to call me Mansoor. I'm fucking 29 years old or 30 something years old. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that the way they kind of got it right is they take charge and they take the lead.
Yeah, they give it to you.
And they give it to you. You know what I mean? Where it's like, if you need something else, they're right there to help you out. But it was like, they're very much in charge the whole time. And I was like, this is really smart.
They,
you know what I mean?
they straight up tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
Because they're about to talk. I loved that.
Yeah.
Like, so this is the setup. So there's 2 seatings per night. It's a 2-star rated Michelin star restaurant. And the thing
And
is,
I
like,
think they just got that.
and they just got a second star. So the thing is, like, you can eat at a, like you said, like, you can eat at a Michelin star restaurant and leave and be like, what the fuck? And that star might be based off the actual food. Like, this, for me, was an experience.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I want. Like, I like going to a place and having good food, but I like going to a place and experiencing, like, the flair of the place like that. And
You
this
didn't have to think.
No.
Like, the only choice I had to make all night was, do I want to do wine pairings or not, or do I want a cocktail or not, or coffee after dinner or not? You know what I mean? So it was perfect, because we all just kind of were in it together.
You go in, there's 2 long tables with abutted to a kitchen, and there's carpet in the kitchen, and there's hardwood floor where the tables are, and there's a threshold that they tell you to don't cross over. However, you can ask any question you want. You can also take as many pictures as you want.
You can walk up and look at what they're doing, ask them questions.
There's also a loft upstairs where they bring you in for cocktails before they seat you. So you come in, you go upstairs, you get your cocktails, they start bringing you drinks, and they start bringing up smaller finger food. So they brought up like these little, like, almost like the longer beaker type shot glasses with like an egg concoction in it. And then they brought up a couple fucking finger foods. Were all probably the best finger foods I ever had. And then they tell you, okay, come on down to your seating, and they sit down. What do you think that was? Probably about 40 people. Or maybe 50.
I'd say 40 is probably a good number, because it's like 20 people.
Well, there's 2 sides to every table. And
probably 40 to 50 people in the room.
You figured there was 10 going down one side, so it was like 40 to 50 people in a seating. They sit you down, and there's probably 12 chefs running around, like, making all the food and firing it out course by course. And for every course that they send out, they have one of the chefs come up, get your attention, tell you what exactly it is, where it was from, where it was foraged, and like wherever it was
Inspirations.
sourced, and the inspirations behind the dish. But literally, they tell you shut up. They're like, okay, "Hey everybody, hey lazy bears," that one girl said.
Yeah.
And everybody shuts up because you figure if you're going to a place like that, you know what you're about to get into. You know food.
Yeah.
So you want to listen. You know, there wasn't one person that had to be told shut up because he kept talking.
Yeah.
Like everybody shuts up, you listen to what the dish is, and then they start firing it out. And then by the time you're done, and that was another thing, it was impeccably paced.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you
as they were explaining each dish, you were getting it dropped in front of you so that you can even get a look and a smell of it
as they were talking.
As they were talking, and then the music comes back up, and then everybody digs in.
Yeah, that was another thing. They were playing like cool music, and they would kill the music for when the chef talked. And then when he was like, "Okay, go ahead," and then everybody rip into their dish and fucking they would like jam the music back up, and so they do this through what do we have, like 11 or 12 courses, and then they do like 2 desserts, and then at the end they give you like a treat like tasting thing with 3 different small like treats on it, and then they get ready for the next wave of people that have already been brought up to the cocktail area. You leave and they bring them down for their second seating of the night.
Or you can go back upstairs and have a couple more drinks if you really want to do it. It's, you know, it was interesting because like when I heard that it was kind of compared to a dinner party in some ways, I was like a little like, I don't know if that's like what I want to get into, but it's like a dinner party at someone's house that you don't really know, and you have you have a ton of respect for them because you want to hear what they have to say, because it's like, you know, it was like that in the sense where it's like, you know, our situation was a little different because it was 4 of us, so we had plenty of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you was only there 2 people at a time, you got 2 strangers on your left, 2 strangers on your right,
and they like encouraged you to talk.
Exactly.
Like whatever, like Meg might have said a couple things to that guy next to him.
Yeah.
And then I told the bad joke, and then that was it. Nobody really wanted to talk to me after that. But like, the servers were all very cool.
Yeah.
Like everybody that brought the food out, the chefs. And the awesome thing I've seen people working in kitchens. I have a million friends that work in kitchens. This was my favorite thing, is that in between every course, that dude with the fucking crazy like pompadour fucking vacuumed the kitchen every time between every course. And half of me was like, why the fuck is this dude running a vacuum? But then I was like, that's awesome. Like that fucking kitchen you could have ate off the floor.
Yeah.
And that's like a level of prestige that like they teach in like fucking French like culinary institutes. Like that shit has to be, there ain't flour flying everywhere. They keep everything fucking totally clean. And that was just a whole nother level of like that right there. Like even at Blue Hill, you don't see the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like you're in this huge dining room that people come and go out of. But this was cool because it was like you were in the kitchen. You could enter the kitchen if you wanted to. All you had to do was ask. You could take as many pictures as you wanted. And it was like at another place, it's like, okay, they're doing all this food behind the scenes and they're going to bring it out to you. This place was so like confident in what they were doing. It was open air for anybody to see.
Yeah.
And anybody could question or ask whatever they wanted. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
That was dope.
And one thing I want to add too, just for anyone that's listening that's curious about Lazy Bear, like never been and wanted to know, it's almost set up like a stage where when that chef or cook comes and explains that dish, they're like somebody standing underneath the spotlight. So everyone knows to look at them. But the way they have it set up and the way it's lit is there's so much thought put into that the whole time I was like, this has like this theatrical element that I never got in a fine dining situation. I mean, I'm not like some dude that's been to like, you know, every restaurant in the world. I've been to some nice places, obviously, but like that's something I never experienced.
Yeah,
before.
I've never had a meal like that where that was showcased.
Yeah.
That was very cool.
And, you know, then that's one of the beefs that I do have with some of the fine dining experiences that I have had is like, you know, I've had at restaurants where I didn't talk to the same person twice because just the system that they have to keep that pace of like dropping courses.
Yeah.
You get a new person every time. And I'm just like,
there's no relationship.
Not that I want to chat it up with everybody, but it's like how are you going to get to know that person sitting at your table if the person that's dropping their plate off hasn't even been there all night, you know? So, you know, and I like that. And they did do a good job of like, you know, there was a lot of different people that were dropping food for us and talking to us and taking our orders, but it never felt like they weren't familiar with us.
Yeah.
And they did a really good job at just knowing who they had on the books for that night,
too. And that's really cool. I like when they like kind of like do a little bit of background of knowing who's who.
Yeah.
Like that was my favorite fucking meal of the year. And I don't see it getting topped anytime. That was fucking awesome.
We
It
are
was
going out
so
tonight,
good. Yeah. We're going tonight. I'm taking Maggie Puggy, a little fucking sexy. Get him. Take your ass to the fucking sexy Outlook afterwards and fucking grab a boob. But yeah, we're gonna go out tonight. I don't want to say where we're going because she's probably around the corner listening. But
Oh, it's a secret.
unless she like looked at my phone, like I didn't even call. I just made it a reservation on Open Table. They had it, but it's a cool restaurant.
I'll give the listeners a hint. It's definitely a celebrity chef's. I think it's it's definitely not his first restaurant because I know in Kanto was his previous restaurant.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there knows who I'm talking about, now you know. No.
And I'll give a clue too. Run a brush through your pubic hair. Get it? You do.
I was gonna say I don't know how that ties in, but I get it.
Now.
I get it now. Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Only you can say that on this show, though.
No, I just looked at my computer and it still has Connecticut time and it said 8:45 p.m. and I was like, "Fuck, I'm late." But man, you know what? Who do you want to say hi to? You got some people you want to say hi to back home that might be listening?
I mean, anyone from Connecticut. If we went to high school together, if we were people that knew each other, I had a couple of different lives in Connecticut. Like I went to high school in Bristol. I had a little stint in the northwest corner when I went to the only college years that I did have.
I was telling Meg about that today. She was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, he's got like a associate's degree or something."
I didn't finish it.
You didn't finish?
I was like a credit away from finishing it, and that's when I moved. And it's kind of a bummer, but it's like I wouldn't have done anything with it anyway.
Photography. An associate's in anything doesn't do anything. It just sets you up for like other classes.
It was just a fun couple of years because I specifically went to Winstead because I knew wouldn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And the only person I did know was Ryan Keefe.
Yeah.
So we had some classes together.
And now he's making guitars or basses.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a career. I always forget what he does, but he's out, like I said, he's out here like once or twice a year for like conferences.
Yep.
And he comes and sees me at the bar and says hi. Mm-hmm. So yeah, if anyone in Connecticut ever comes to San Francisco anytime soon, you know where to find me. Please say hello. I should be in Connecticut maybe sometime soon.
You will be in Connecticut next October.
Yeah.
Yeah, the October 13th. Maybe we could figure out something cool to do.
How much time we got left?
We could do whatever. Why? What else? I
don't know.
You want to go?
No.
No. What? Do you want to talk about something else?
I want to. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think people that listen in look forward to the most from you? Like antic stories?
Yeah. Well, it always takes that turn.
Yeah. We can leave those out in this one, but
no. It doesn't matter who I've brought on. It always usually takes a turn of like childhood debauchery or like crazy tales of some shit you did when you were younger. Like it doesn't matter who it was. Like even like Kyone Wolf from NPR told like a story about how she like threw fucking a rock through her neighbor's window or something. Like I can't remember, but like everybody kind of brings it back, and it's kind of been like a recurring theme. Why? What do you got something that I forgot?
Well, no, that's why I wish that I was more caught up on your shows so I could be like, I can't believe this hasn't been brought up yet, or like.
Tell me because I can remember what was and what wasn't.
Well, I mean that's so hard to just like reach in the thin air and like
reach down into the pot, dude. You know that there's something.
I don't know. I think it's just funny because like even when I'm like listening to some of these stories, it's like I completely forgot about them.
Oh yeah,
and it's crazy because like for a lot of people that's like your one story.
Yeah,
but for us, there's
thousands
of them. It's crazy that like you and Harley were talking the other day about like
he brought me back to a place. Like
how the fuck did people get away with that kind of stuff back then? But you did, you know, you really did, and it was just like that's we're living in a very different time.
Yeah,
because people don't get away with shit anymore.
No, like it's like there's a camera on every corner, and we were talking about it. Like if we were doing that shit now, we'd be in prison.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's just the age we grew up in. But I was telling everybody like our cousins like lived in the woods, and they did like a whole other level of like lawless shit.
Yeah,
like we got in trouble because we did that same shit in like the suburbs.
Yeah,
like they lived on a farm.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, but yeah, man, like shit. Harley brought me back. I kind of got on a roll and was like started thinking about other things, and you were just like, that whole era was coming together. I wanted to have Ryan on one time because he would probably just like boom, like
he'd be like an encyclopedia for it.
he would bring me back to a whole bunch of shit.
No, I mean, I think you can pick from one of two things. It's like things that just happened in Bristol, either during the time that we were going to hardcore shows, or things that happened at hardcore shows.
At hardcore shows.
On your way to hardcore shows, on our way home from hardcore shows, things like that. And that's like one of the funniest things about listening to your podcast is it's like I forget about this kind of stuff. And also like when I like see people talk about stuff online, like I said, I'm like, yeah, that happened, but it was a little bit different.
Yeah,
so like everyone,
that's their twist on
everybody
it.
has a twist. Eric's really good at that too.
Yeah.
Eric's got all his own twists. It's not that the story is inaccurate in any way. It's like the daytime scenario is right, but like it's just funny how everybody remembers things.
Had a different role.
Yeah, had a different role. But I don't know. I think however many years, so it was like 93 to 2000 2001 when I left. Basically I was going to shows with you and with that crew for
7-8 years.
7-8 years. And if we're talking about Connecticut and we're talking about hardcore at the same time, that's going to be something I'm going to want to bring up, is how much I miss those days, because I never got the connection with that music. And the same thing kind of goes for like other things too, like graffiti. Like I moved to Cincinnati partially because of the graffiti scene there, but unfortunately when I got there I didn't click with people like I did on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And like same with hardcore. Like I moved there and like I knew a lot of people that were in the hardcore, but it was such a different scene.
Yeah.
With such different people that I just couldn't like.
You grew with those people on the East Coast, like through the years, trying to insert yourself into a whole other scene. Just because you go to hardcore scenes
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, because there's like whole other hardcore scenes in other states where like you all suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't get why you're into this. You don't get why I was into my era. The only common recurring thing we do have in common is that we attend hardcore shows.
Yeah.
I was just talking about this the other day, man. A lot of people say like, oh, fucking hardcore made me the person I am today. It's like there's a lot of hardcore show-going pieces of shit.
Yeah.
However, there's more like good dudes. You know what I mean? We've met a lot of good dudes through that musical scene. However, for every good dude, there's fucking some asshole that's like in prison, fucking, you know what I mean? And it's just
that's a huge bum out. I was like, I have friends to this day, and some people it's just like acquaintances that we still keep in touch through like social media. But I have friends that I've really kept in touch with for, since 93, 94, 95.
Like Jay Bill. You and Jay Bill will be buddies forever.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about that. And it's, flash forward to me on the West Coast, and like there's definitely a scene out here. Bands definitely come through out here, but I just don't have the same fun and experience at these shows. And like I remember going like a couple years ago, Twitching Tongues played a show out here, and it's when I first got to know those guys, and I was like pumped to see them. And I go to this show and I'm like jumping around having a good time, and I got all these dudes trying to beat me up because I'm like that guy that nobody knows. And I'm like, that's the fucked up thing about some of the things that go down at hardcore shows. Like if no one knows you, you're probably going to get beat up. And like, as much as people want to talk about positivity and things like that, nobody wants to see a big old fucking 6'4" gorilla dude shoving their friends around, even though it's in total, it's just part of what happens. But it's like, and it bummed me out because I was like, fuck, I was like, these dudes definitely want to like squabble right now. And I'm just here having a good time. And like I had to kind of snap out of that, like 15 years ago this wouldn't have happened because I either know everybody here or I just wouldn't have let it go. Mm-hmm. But it's like out here I have to be like very calculated and be like, all right, I'm just gonna go get a beer.
Yeah, and it's like,
I'm by myself.
Yeah, and it's like, but the thing is like, me or you could go to any show, any hardcore show in any town in the nation, and then know somebody else. You know what I mean? Like we could.
I couldn't.
You're gonna at least know one person, or at least like one degree of separation.
We would know someone in a band.
Yeah,
because that's like the common denominator for us. It's like we knew so many people from so many bands who are now spread all over. They're not just in that part of the country. But I miss that shit, And so when I listen to a lot of these like podcasts you're doing, it's just like it just like brings up like the nostalgia of it. And
I still go to like any like advertised hardcore show that happens in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And that's not to say they're not. It's a different time.
Yeah.
And all the old people still go.
Yeah.
We just stand outside.
Yeah.
Or like stand in the back. But I also have a lot of younger friends that are like running shit and being in bands just like we did back then. Like we had our pack of friends, and now like it's like it ushered in a whole new like era of like guys to do it. And it's just like I like to see that. I might not like a lot of bands, but like if you're like a young hardcore going dude from Connecticut, I know you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know you. And it's just like there's dudes older than me, and they know them. It's just like it's cliche to say, but it still is very family.
Yeah.
It's cool. I love that.
No, and it's cool that like no matter what the year or the era or generation of it, it's something that'll never burn out. You know what I mean? Especially in Connecticut.
I don't give a fuck what anybody says. That era that we went to shows in Connecticut was the best.
Yeah.
Like there was Anthrax, and there was a couple years before that, but that was just that club.
Yeah.
There wasn't any good shows going on anywhere else in Connecticut other than that. And then it kind of blew up, and it was pretty much by the hand of Jamie Josta.
Yeah.
That booked all those shows back in the day, and that's why shit was good.
Yeah.
Like
you need someone to be constantly looking ahead and being like, we got to have a show on the books, and like that's a lot of pressure, and that's a lot to do, and like I think every hardcore kid in that era probably took that for granted in the moment. But didn't realize how much work Jamie was doing. You know what I mean? Like we all heard stories about Jamie and like how he's like a
prick,
businessman. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to be, because it's like you're managing multiple talents and people and bands. And
people say the same thing about Manic Mark.
Could you imagine doing that without the fucking internet?
No,
that's insane.
Yeah, like
he did that all with fucking telephones.
Yeah, and printing
letters
and printing out like these are the directions to the show.
Yeah,
like And like I got a bunch of friends that do it now, like all the kids in Laid to Rest. Like they do most of the booking in Connecticut right now, whether it's like crazy weird bands, death metal bands, black metal bands, or hardcore bands. Like they're pretty much doing everything that comes through the Wallingford American Legion.
Yeah.
And I've seen some bands that I never would have seen if they hadn't like have booked them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, they're doing pretty much the same thing that Jamie had done years ago.
Yeah.
And I respect that. I might like. There's a lot of new music out that I don't like.
Yeah.
Because I'm just old and crotchety.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen.
And I'm stuck in the era that I went to hardcore shows, and that's like that whole youth crew movement. Yeah. That's my favorite time.
Yeah.
Youth of Today, Cornerstone, Fast Break, like that's what I like to listen to.
Yeah.
Posi core, like that weird positive fucking like. But like we did get into some weird shit after that.
Yeah,
it all goes back to that era.
And you talked about this with Harley the other day. It was like you would go to a show, especially in our part of Connecticut, where there'd be 3 bands that really didn't make any sense, but they were friends, so they would like have a show together.
Totally, yeah, and that happens today too.
Yeah,
totally.
Because
it's
you just
need
a thing. You just need to get on a bill with somebody,
and that you're not gonna. The state isn't big enough to get on a bill with a bunch of bands that are just like you.
Yeah,
you have to have a mixed bill, and sometimes they even have hip hop dudes, and that's how mixed it gets out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's the obviously you got to figure out the tasteful way to do it. You don't need a DJ in between.
There's definitely been untasteful ways of doing it, but yeah, we get by, and I still really like to support it. And the funny thing is, like, if I do go to your show that you booked and I don't go inside, like, I'll still give you some, like, I'll still put money just because it's like, support the scene.
Yeah, no, you have to. Somebody's. I mean, it's the thing. It's like we didn't think about that when we were young, fucking assholes. But it's
sneaking
like
into shows.
Somebody's got to pay the venue. You know what I mean? Or like do something. They gotta get something out of the deal. Luckily for us, we didn't have to do that very often, but we still did.
Yeah.
But that's, and I think that's the funny thing about me and you is like, you obviously were in a band and a couple bands, but like for 2 people that were like really never in a band consistently. Like we were like still part of that, you know what I mean? Like it's just like a weird thing because it's like there was like, oh, shout out to every band from Connecticut, and then me, you, and Eric,
Big E and the Grippos. There's like here's all these bands in the thanks list of an album, and then Big E and the Grippos. Mm-hmm. You know who started that shit? Rick to Life. Oh man. You know what I tried?
Remember when he gave our number to fucking Tony? Was it Tony who owned Victory Records?
Yeah.
And he just called us at mom and dad's house.
Yes.
And he like wanted to get. It was the most random thing because I think Rick actually mentioned it to us, and we were like, okay, but like, what does he want from us?
Yeah.
And then he like called and probably talked to mom or dad first.
Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, can I?"
He's
talk
like,
to
"Can I
son?"
talk to Doug Grippo?"
Doug can I talk to Doug Grippo? Doug Grippos. Yo, the funny thing is, like, he's obviously lost his mind, and a lot of people hate him and want to kill him and shit. But imagine this scenario. Imagine Rick to life, never lost his mind, always stayed to that unity. This, that, and was just like the hardcore savior throughout the years. Imagine he never took a turn that made people hate him, and he was just always like Uncle Rick, like the greatest person ever. Like, but that would be a universe I'd like to live in. But people want to kill that motherfucker.
I mean, it's a lot of years being in a scene. You know what I mean?
It's
There's
a lot of
politics.
years. It's part mental health issues.
Yeah.
It's like all kinds of shit. But hey, it's still very entertaining. I was in a group chat with him and 30
he never said
other,
nothing bad about us.
dude. I was in a group chat with him and 30 other people, like maybe a month ago, and people were just saying crazy shit to him. But he would just reply with pictures of his merch. And then there was like a lull where he wasn't talking for like a whole day, and somebody was like, "Yo, Rick, where the fuck you at?" And he just wrote back, "Coffee break, Nimrod." And then they changed the name of the chat to Coffee Break Nimrod. And then he wrote back one more thing, and it was, "Let the chat be the chat."
I think, if I went in the bookcase over there and got my 1998 Bristol Lancers yearbook out, I counted it once. There's 15 people with 25 to Life shirts on.
Yeah.
In my 1998 graduating, not my class, but like the 4 years, freshman, junior, senior, sophomore.
Yeah.
It was that big.
My junior year.
That's more than any other band shirt that anyone had on in that high school.
My senior year picture, I'm wearing a Bulldoze t-shirt. In my junior year picture, I have a Fury of 5 shirt on. Mm-hmm. That tells you how dedicated to decor we were. My favorite thing is Pat Phelan being on the back of that Hatebreed t-shirt with his crazy fucking snake face.
Yeah, and it was like a weird limited release CD.
Yeah.
It was like a EP or something.
It was like a
that.
smorgasbord print or something weird that wasn't even like that. And it was just like... It was like,
and isn't he wearing a Hatebreed shirt in the
total
photo?
vortex? Like you could like mirror in a hallway, like, dude. Yeah, Pat Phelan, man. Fuck.
My senior year quote was definitely a death threat lyric.
My senior year quote was a Bulldoze lyric. What the fuck was it?
Something like "Only the strong survive." Something very
no. It was
something very not generic, but like very simple. It wasn't like too deep.
I gotta look it up. Do you have? You wouldn't
I don't
have
your
mine.
big, yeah.
Somebody showed it to me recently. Fuck. Something about like fuck. Something about power. It wasn't Remember Who's Strong.
That was the name of the album.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was just a lyric out of it. Something about the streets or know where you came from or some shit. Fuck, I gotta find it now. If I scroll back through my like Facebook tag photos, somebody tagged me in it recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Mike Guerin?
Yeah.
That dude who used to bring me to school?
Yeah.
Recently, he hit me up on Facebook. Yeah, he hit me up on Facebook. He works at like a high-end like architecture design firm that turned this old Hartford firehouse into these nice like workspaces. And he fucking just sends me a picture of a Scarhead coat, like one of those like insulated jackets that they were selling. It's perfect condition. He's like, "You want this?" And I went to his work and he gave it to me. And it's in my closet. I just have to find somebody that cares about Scarhead enough to fucking take it.
I have a hardcore time capsule buried in the Midwest that I'm gonna get one of these days. But
really?
I gotta wait for till it's like
wait like
real,
20 years. Yeah,
I don't need
like
to get it now.
Years.
You know, it's cool now, but it'll be fucking
I wish I did that.
Way like, and it's just basically because I'm such a pack rat and I carried this shit all across the country.
Is it in the woods somewhere where somebody won't find it?
No, it's in someone's basement, but still, it's like it's in a box where it's not going to get touched.
Okay.
And I know it's there. It's at Ben and Carrie's house. So
Okay.
you know they were like, whenever you want it, you can have it. I'm like, oh, just hold on to it. And like I almost got it when I was on the road trip last year, but I was like, I have no room for it here. Obviously,
Let it marinate.
Yeah.
How much is it?
Oh,
how
it's
much
just-
stuff of it is mine that you took from me?
Whatever. Mine.
You
that
know
you took
that there's
from
at
me.
least one piece.
You know how many things of mine you ruined over the years? We won't go down this.
When I got addicted to
Feud.
drugs, Matt kind of like absorbed all the good collectible stuff because he knew I would have sold it anyways.
Or just lost it. Or
lost it,
ruined
yeah. I'm totally fine with you
Yeah,
conserving it.
Yeah, whenever there's like that CTHC Facebook thread, that that private
The Brotherhood board?
the Brotherhood board, you would be like, I had that shirt, and in my head I'd be like, my fucking
No,
shirt.
I had that shirt.
But it was like when we were living together, it was like we just
Both of our
shared-
shirts.
We just had a shared wardrobe.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's like it's basically everything I had up to that point from Connecticut. Like I never bought merch that often unless it was like something special. So I there's probably it's probably 75% Death Threat shirts, 20% Hatebreed shirts, 5% like other things.
Yeah.
But then it's like a ton of zines. I have my flyers out here, but like all the zines and like tapes and shit like that, records,
Dope.
it's all in that box.
Hell
so it's just
yeah.
like sitting there, and I'm gonna crack it open one of these years.
Let me know when you
Put it
go
on
to pick it
eBay.
up. Yeah, let me know when you fucking get it. I'll fucking...
Speaking of Jay Bill, he brought up something funny, and it's just it's like a whole nother way of like looking at like preserving hardcore. And if there's a dude out there that can speak on it, it's him. What I mean? Like, cause he's not only is he a collector, but he's not a fan of highly sought after things going to a collector that just wants it, that wasn't a part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's some shit to think about, because it's like he's kind of in some ways cock blocking somebody, but it's like, who cares about that person? It's like some dude with a bunch of money in like Japan,
Yeah.
that just is obsessed with the culture, where he's like he's almost like the people that go and look for like fucking artifacts that were like sold on the black market. You know what I mean?
Yeah, to
like,
take 'em back.
To take them back. To like
Reclaim
bring them
them.
back, and like he wants them to stay in like Connecticut or at least the United States, because it's like that's where it happened. That's where it needs to
Yeah,
be.
he's a
And-
total purist.
Yeah, no, I was like, dude, that's some whole nother shit. And I was like, I totally appreciated it.
Oh, hell yeah.
That dude is, if anyone knows anything about him, he's got like an insane collection.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's like,
And he pays top dollar to
And
take those things back.
yeah, and I like that he doesn't flaunt it out there, because there's like people that are like,
You wouldn't even know.
check out my fucking Bane collection or like some shit like that. It's like, it's like a room full of shit, but like he's got like, storage lockers full of shit that's just like,
Yeah.
mind blowing. And like, that just,
He's going to come to a
yeah.
place one day he's going to be like, cool, I can quit doing what I want and just sell this shit for the rest of my life. And
Or
live.
he'll keep it forever.
Yeah, he probably-
because it really fucking means something to him, and that's the coolest thing about that whole
Yeah,
scenario.
totally. Hell yeah. CTHC, bro.
Bruh,
You want to end it right there?
we can.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening over the last year. If this podcast is going to resurface, it will be repackaged, repurposed, and rebranded. But it might not. But if it doesn't, thank you for listening. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to my sponsors throughout the last year. And just know that something else will take this place, and we'll all have our conversations again. But thank you to my brother for being my final guest in 2017, and we'll leave it at that.
Thanks for having me.
You
Hopefully
got it.
it wasn't too anticlimactic for your podcast listeners.
No, man, it was great.
But, it's a good place to bring it. Holiday edition of the podcast.
Holiday family edition.
Thanks for maybe taking me on your maiden voyage of your podcast. But hopefully this isn't the last. I doubt it will be.
No.
But, all right.
Later.
Peace.
Bye-bye.